Well, hello there, you Scumlords, and welcome back to the channel for another video. Today we're going to be discussing the T18E2 Boarhound, which was recently released this week as part of the Chronicles event vehicles. And today we're going to be taking a look at it. I've got a couple of games for you here where I did exceptionally well in this vehicle. But I'm going to talk a little bit through its statistics and then quickly give you guys my opinion on whether or not it's worth it and why I think so. So, first of all, this vehicle is obviously an armored car. It is 8-wheeled. It has a 250 horsepower engine with a supposed top speed of 80 kilometers an hour. Now, the vehicle will never reach that speed, but I will talk about that later on. This is a Tier 2 battle rating 3.0 vehicle, which is actually quite problematic for it, and I will talk about that again later as we move on through this. It is also equipped with 50 millimeters of frontal armor on the lower glasses plate and on the areas surrounding the driver's hatches. It has 50 millimeters, with the driver's hatches themselves being about 38 millimeters thick, and the front of the gun mallet on the turret being about 50 millimeters as well. It is equipped with the M1 57mm anti-tank gun, which was the US standard 57mm anti-tank weapon during World War II. It's derived from the British 6-pounder. However, on this vehicle, it is equipped with APHE and an AP round. So, it is also equipped with 14 smoke grenades that can be fired through the roof of the turret. And it has the spotting mechanic, which allows you to spot enemies and gain aircraft assists. So, now that I have talked a little bit about its statistics, let's talk about what it is like to play in-game. Well, first of all, the first thing that anybody is going to notice when they play this vehicle for the first time is, oh my god, this is slow as hell. This is not the fastest and most well-powered tank, well, I almost said tank destroyer. It might as well be, but this is not the most well-powered armored car. And the reason for that is the 250 horsepower engines, I should say. It's basically two engines just slapped together that go through a common crankshaft to propel this vehicle along. It is 8-wheel drive, in theory. However, this vehicle, it also weighs, as a result of all the armor put on it, 24 tons, which is insane for an armored car. This vehicle was originally developed at the request of the British, and it was supposed to be a sort of, I guess you could say, highly aggressive reconnaissance vehicle. And in that respect, it works pretty well in War Thunder. However, it is important to understand that this vehicle has an amalgamation of factors that work just well enough to keep this vehicle from being actually quite poor. The gun on it is just good enough so that it can remain competitive even when it's up-tiered. The armor on it is just good enough to sometimes block shells coming in. The mobility is just good enough to get you to where you need to go without being the slowest kid on the block. However, being an armored car, you are mostly going to be confined to roads if you want to move along at your top speed. Which, again, is a problem with almost all of the armored cars, because a majority of the maps that War Thunder has is not suitable for most of the armored wheeled vehicles in the game. Now, because it has all this extra armor added onto it, it is, however, immune to being hull broken, which is a big bonus for an armored car. So if you hate driving vehicles that get hull broken, but you prefer to play, but you really like to play a wheeled vehicle, this might be the one for you. Overall, however, I'm going to say that this vehicle is really not worth the amount of effort that you have to put in to get it. The Chronicle events, for the most part, are not all that great. They historically have never been all that great. And the fact that Gaijin forces people to play these Chronicle events to get these vehicles is really quite annoying for pretty much everybody. Because very few people are going to have the amount of money required to simply drop on this vehicle and not worry about the events. And the T18E2, as fun and as novel as it is, it's not worth it. It's simply not. Let me talk about some of the problems it has. One of the major problems that this thing has is its battle rating. This is a 3.0 battle rating. Now, a lot of people are going to immediately say, well, the AEC Mark II has a 3.0 battle rating. It doesn't have APHE, but it's got essentially the same gun, and it's much faster. So why would this be a problem for this vehicle when it has more armor? Well, the problem is that with the nice thing about the AEC Mark II is because it's a 3.0 battle rating, it's got a lot of other vehicles around it to support it. When it comes to the American tech tree, though, 3.0, there's nothing else other than the T18E2 at 3.0. It is the only vehicle at 3.0 battle rating for tanks, for U.S. ground forces. There is literally nothing else there when it comes to RB. So it means that you're forced to do one of two things. You can either up-tier your 2.7 lineup to a 3.0 and potentially get thrown into 4.0 matches, or you can toss this vehicle into a 3.7 or 3.3 lineup for that matter, and hope that you don't get up-tiered. Frankly, I found better success with actually putting this vehicle in the 2.7 lineup and then using it as my primary vehicle in whatever match I get put into. Again, the vehicle works just well enough that you can get away with top tier game, or like being bottom tier, or being massively up tiered. So, overall, the vehicle performs, yes, but it's not exactly what you would call convenient for the US tech tree. Oh yeah, something else that I've noticed when playing this vehicle is that an explosion landing anywhere near you, like within like a 5-mile radius, instantly knocks out your transmission, or your 4 transmissions, essentially, because this vehicle is all-wheel drive, none of these vehicles are just free-floating. As a result, anything that hits you or penetrates you or any artillery that lands near you is going to hamper your mobility and knock your transmission out. So expect to spend a lot of time repairing your transmission in this vehicle. Now thankfully, you don't have to grind any modifications because this does come as a premium, which is quite nice. It's been kind of off and on whether or not Gaijin introduces these vehicles as premiums. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't. In this case, it is a premium, so that's really, really nice to have. But again, I think for what you're doing, the vehicle really isn't worth the amount of time and effort that you have to put into it. Is it fun? Yes, but how often will... Let's ask ourselves the question, how often will we actually use this vehicle? I know, because I know that as cool as and as fun as this thing is, I probably won't use this thing for more than a week or 2. It's simply a novelty. For those who love collecting vehicles in War Thunder, for those vehicle collectors, go for it. It's a fun vehicle. But for those who are just getting the event vehicle so they don't feel left out, really, you could spend your time doing better things in War Thunder. You could be actually grinding your tech trees rather than torturing yourself with a lot of the World War II Chronicle events. Now, for those who want to hear more about the vehicle itself, let's start with the gun. So, the gun on it, like I mentioned, is the M1 57mm cannon. It is equipped with APHE and AP. Honestly, I haven't really found much of a use for the AP rounds, and frankly, I would probably recommend not carrying very many, maybe 5 or 6. I am carrying 15 here because this is one of the first matches that I played in it, and this is probably one of my best matches. There's actually one other match that I will maybe show in a separate video. However, this match in particular, I got 12 kills in, and that other match I got 13. However, I forgot to record it while I was playing, and so I had to go back and record the replay. So again, that will probably be another video where I just sort of talk through what I'm thinking. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So the gun on it is pretty good. It's quite powerful. It is effective at actually killing crews far more than it is destroying ammo racks and so on. And that, I think, is down to the fact that since it is a 57mm cannon, and it has to have a dramatically reduced charge, it's not very good at knocking out specific modules, but it's great at knocking out large swaths of crew within an enemy vehicle. And again, while these vehicles are at the lower battle ratings, they are far more compacted and much easier to just knock out in a single shot. So the APHE is great in that respect, and it's definitely an advantage to have. In addition, this vehicle also has a stabilizer on the gun, which means that you are definitely going to shoot faster than most of the Panzers are, which are sitting there rocking on their suspension waiting for it to settle down. You can simply stop, point, and fire. It's that simple. And because the rounds are such high velocity on this, you don't generally have to lead them very much in order to land a hit. Now granted, that all depends on your skill level. Personally, I'm actually quite good at firing at long range, so I've had better luck with it than some people. But again, your mileage may vary. As far as the armor is concerned, the armor isn't actually all that tough when you first look at it, but I found that I imagine probably because people haven't seen this vehicle before and it's so new, people are bouncing off of this thing quite regularly. And mostly I find that is because they are firing at the mid plate, not the lower plate on this vehicle. And the lower plate, while it's perfectly flat in 50 millimeters, also doesn't really have anything behind it. If you want to do some serious damage to this vehicle and knock it out quickly, you need to hit it in the driver's ports. The driver's ports are actually weaker than the rest of the armor around it. It's 38 millimeters thick. So it is quite easy for a Panzer IV or even a Panzer III to even just put one shot in there and knock out the entire vehicle in one go. Now remember, you will not hull break this vehicle because it has armor greater than 30 millimeters. That is Gaijin's baseline for adding in a hull break feature to a vehicle. So, because this vehicle has so much armor on it, it is not likely for a shell of 75 millimeters or greater to completely shatter this vehicle. That being said, there's always a case to be made for a 152 millimeter shell. However, again, this vehicle will not get hull broken, so don't depend on it being hull broken. Now, its side armor is, well, it's non-existent, basically. And if you do fire an HE round or a heat round into the side armor, you can do some really serious damage and knock this vehicle out. The mobility, finally, is, well, like I said, it's overall through the video, it's subpar. Do not expect this thing to be going very fast, especially over rough terrain like mud or deep snow. In both of those terrain features, it is going to crawl, and I mean crawl along. You're probably looking at T95 speeds, 9, 10, 13 kilometers per hour. However, on roads where it is relatively flat and few obstructions, you're probably going to average about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour. So, I believe that covers everything you need to know about the T18E2. Its penetration, actually, that's one thing I did miss. The penetration on this vehicle is about 111 millimeters with the AP CBC rounds, and about 127 millimeters with the AP rounds, which I personally use to knock out vehicles like KV-1s and so on. So I believe that covers almost everything you need to know about the T18E2. If you feel that I missed everything, please leave a comment about it down in the description below. I am sure I missed something there. I did actually miss something. I missed the fact that this thing is artillery, but that's kind of a given. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. This has been many miles away. Keep your tracks checked, keep your binders in place, keep around the tube, and I will see all of you in the next video.